Card reviews are back. It is the reveal season of Scholomance Academy. Let's jump right into it. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Howley here and back with another card review for Scholomance Academy. Today we have 8 new cards that are being released and I'm going to be covering all of them, giving my opinions, giving my first impressions about these cards, and giving a review out of 10 at the end. As always, I've also added a little explanation about how the rating system works above me there or somewhere on the screen, so you guys can look at that during the video to, determine and maybe give it a rating yourself as well, and then let me know in the comments below what you would rate all these cards in the video. Without further ado, let's just jump into the first card straight away, and it is a very exciting legendary, guys. Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. The Kel'Thuzad card of this expansion, is themed around Kel'Thuzad, and it reads 5 mana 4/6 spell burst. If the spell destroys any minions, summon them. Firstly, this card is incredibly cool. I think the flavor of this card is insane. I really like how they designed this. And basically how it works is when you play this minion on the board, then you cast a spell. If that spell kills anything, if it kills a minion, basically, you get to summon it on your side of the board. So, for example, if you play, Headmaster Kel'Thuzad along with something like Shadow of Death, you're going to summon the minion that you kill. Maybe it's a King Crush, for example. If you play it alongside any sort of removal spell, any sort of AoE as well. If the AoE kills multiple minions, you're going to summon them all, as long as Kel'Thuzad doesn't die. So that is going to be strong. You're able to kind of combo this card a lot of the time with different removal pieces, removal cards, and kind of get a massive tempo swing onto your board. As long as the removal doesn't deal more than 6 damage, which most AoE doesn't. The issue I have with this card, and probably the only issue, is that it's 5 mana. It's very expensive. It's going to be very hard to combo certain removal cards with this. For example, you can't play Blizzard with this. You can't play Siphon Soul without the coin, of course. But, the most you can do with this card is play another 5-cost card at max, right? So I'm thinking something like Time Rip. Pretty good. You destroy a minion, you summon a minion. Maybe that's just good enough, guys. This is a neutral card as well, so it can be used in pretty much every single class. Any sort of control deck would love to see this card. Any sort of, maybe even a mid-range deck that makes use of some spells at least. I would love to see this card. Any deck. Mostly control decks though. High-end decks, fantastic, right? Absolutely insane. I think this card can be used in a wide variety of decks, and for that reason, I'm actually giving this an 8 out of 10. The reason I'm not giving it a 9 is because I'm not sure if it's going to be exactly in the tier 1 deck. I think this is going to be in so many different decks. High-end the Mage, maybe even Galakrond Priest. Galakrond Priest is probably the best current meta deck that I think this card will fit into the most, just simply because of Shadow of Death, and they have Time Rip, and even stuff like Breath of the Infinite may be able to kill some minions. But also, it's just a 5 mana 4/6. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just a vanilla stat line. You don't mind playing this on 5, right? It's not understated. The 6th house makes it survive more AoE as well. Obviously, it doesn't have any immediate effects, no taunt, no rush, but it's not bad to play on 5, and you can possibly set up for some removal the next turn. It kind of has pseudo taunt because if you play this on 5, your opponent kind of has to kill it. Otherwise, they're just going to get a massive tempo swing done on them the next turn. So it kind of has taunt in that way. And because of that, I think this is a really strong card. So 8 out of 10 for me. Really nicely designed card. Probably one of my favorite cards of the expansion so far that have been released. And yeah, 8 out of 10. Really good card. Okay, guys. Next up, we have Combustion for Mage. It's a 3 mana spell. Epic rarity. It reads, deal 4 damage to a minion. Any excess damages both neighbors. So on the offset, it's basically a Shadow Bolt, right? 3 mana deal 4 to a minion. That's literally Shadow Bolt, and that's not bad. It's not great nowadays, right? It's a little bit underpowered. It's kind of just okay. It's not overpowered, if that is just it. But the extra effect that it has, where it will deal excess damage to both neighbors, is incredibly powerful. I think this card can see playing, Control Mage, so higher than mages, 100% want to see this card in their deck. Spell Mages as well is a perfect card for Spell Mage, which I already think is a pretty decent deck in the meta. Alongside Highlander Mage. So I think this is a really cool. Imagine you hit a 1 health minion, with this spell. It will deal 3 damage to the adjacent minions of that minion. That's insane, right? Let's say they have a lackey on the board, and next to the lackey there are, maybe a 4/3 and maybe a 3/2. It's going to hit the lackey for 1, and it's going to deal 3 to both the adjacent minions, right? That's insane. What if it's 2? What if you hit a 2 health minion? Okay, then it's going to deal 2 and kind of like AoE to the adjacent minions. That's insane. Really good against Demon Hunter, for example, right? Satyr Overseer is completely dead. This card just counters it so much. You know, at most, right, if it hits a 1 mana... I keep saying mana, guys. If it hits a 1 health minion, it can deal 7 damage AoE technically, which rivals Dark Skies, as, you know, and we all know Dark Skies is completely broken. It's an OP removal card. And this kind of is too. I mean, it can only kill 3 minions at max from the opponent, but the effect is really, really interesting, and it kind of makes your opponent have to play around it, which I think is really cool. Like, you know, if someone's playing against a mage right now, they have to kind of play around Combustion once the expansion is released. And just because of that, just because Combustion is now in the card pool, even though it might not be in your deck, which I think it will, just because your opponent has to play around it makes this card very, very strong. And yeah, it's kind of like rolling Fireball, and it's just another thing that they have to play around with it when they play against mage. So it makes mage control decks a lot more powerful. I think this is a really, really sweet card. But the question is, where do I think mage is going to be? Is it going to be tier 1? I don't know. And obviously, not all the mage cards have been released so far, so it's hard to say. So I'm actually going to give this a 7 out of 10, guys, because I'm not sure if mage is going to be tier 1. I think it will definitely be in tier 2. I think it does have, you know, the power to be in tier 2. So because of that, and because I think this card is going to be a staple in every mage deck, I'm going to give it a high 7 out of 10. And yeah, really good card. Alright guys, so the next card is Steel Dancer. It is another dual class card, so very cool to see that they released another dual class card, this time for Rogue and Warrior. And it reads, 4 mana 4/4, Battlecry, summon a random minion with cost equal to your weapon's attack. So immediately, you can see why it's in Rogue and Warrior, right? The two classes that make use of weapons the most. I mean, you could argue Demon Hunter is probably up there as well. But kind of the traditional, you know, two classes that make use of weapons. Obviously Rogue has its dagger, and right now we see Warrior using, you know, a lot of weapons, Anchor, Livewire Lance, and Wrench Caliber alongside Corsair Cash. Immediately this card has already got a decent stat line. 4 mana 4/4, it's not bad, okay? It's obviously not great. You wouldn't just play a 4 mana 4/4 vanilla stat line, but it's pretty decent. And if you even get like a 2-cost minion with this, I think it's pretty worth it, right? Would you play a 4 mana 4/4 summon as random 2-cost? Maybe you would, right? What if it's a 3-cost? What if it's a 4 mana 4/4 summon a 3-cost? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty strong. That's really, really good tempo. It's stat split around 2 minions, so it's harder for single target removal to kill them. And it's pretty good. Like on average, what the stats for a 3/3? Probably like a 3/3. That's the average stats for a 3-drop. So it's kind of like a 4 mana 7/7 if your weapon has at least 3 attack. And yeah, I think that's pretty strong. But now begs the question, what kind of deck really wants to use this, right? If you look at the Warrior decks initially, right now, does this really fit into the Enraged Warrior? Not really. I think those 30 cards are pretty much spoken for. Maybe this will create a new Tempo Warrior kind of build. Does this fit into like Pirate Warrior, for example? Not really. You kind of just really want to run Pirates. It doesn't have a tribe, obviously. So it doesn't really fit into Warrior right now. Maybe it can create a new archetype, but on its own, I don't think it will. Obviously, it's still pretty good with, like, if you get Anchor, like, let's say you play Anchor on 3, you play Steel Dancer on 4. Not bad. You get a 4/4 with a 2-drop. Okay, but I don't think that's good. That's better than some of the cards in Enraged Warrior currently. Where I think this card is going to be very good is in Rogue. Let's think about the weapons that Rogue have. They have Waggle Pick. They have Hooked Scimitar. They obviously just have their Dagger, which obviously is only 1 attack. But they do have the ability to use Deadly Poison on to make it 3 attack, right? So maybe in some sort of aggressive rogue list, maybe this card can see a home in that, because imagine they play Hook Scimitar on 3, maybe with a backstab, maybe with another 0 mana spell. Then you get a 4/2 weapon. You attack with it. Next turn you play Steel Dancer. You get a 4/4 and a random 4-drop. That's really strong. Like, that's really, really good. Tempo, you can sometimes get lucky. You can get maybe Karkath Blade Fist. You can get some other OP 4-drops. And you can high roll. You can also low roll, obviously, but on average, it's pretty good, right? So maybe some sort of aggressive. I'm thinking like Stealth Rogue can come into the to the meta. Obviously, with the nerf to Galakrond, Rogue kind of needs some new tools, and I think this is a really good tool for Rogue, especially. Maybe not so much for Warrior, but I think it's just still a decent card. So that's how I'm going to be looking at these dual class cards, like influencing, like analyzing how they are for both of the decks that obviously are incorporated into this card. But with that being said, I think this card is, you know, has the potential to create a new archetype in an aggressive rogue list. I don't think you'll fit into a warrior list, so it's a bit of like a prediction for what I'm saying. This might be completely wrong, but because I think it might create a new archetype, and maybe that archetype can be tier 2, tier 3, I'm actually going to give this a 5 out of 10. I'm gonna put it in that bracket of a decent card that can go into a tier 2 deck. I might be wrong about that. This card might see no play whatsoever, but I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 because I think it's very interesting, and if there is, and the upside of this card can be very strong. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, and hopefully I am right. Let's see. Okay, so we have a Demon Hunter card up next, guys. The first Demon Hunter card that has been revealed for this expansion. Cycle of Hatred, 7 mana, deal 3 damage to all minions, summon a 3/3 spirit for every minion killed. So Demon Hunter getting some more AoE. It's got the same cost as Flame Strike, but it does 3 instead of 4. Obviously, Flame Strike only targets the opponent's board. But this has the upside of summoning a 3/3 every time you kill a minion when you use this AoE. The issue I have with this card is it's 7 mana. It's very expensive, and it only does 3 AoE, right? It doesn't do 4, it doesn't do 5. I think those breakpoints are really, really important. This can't really be used to stop aggression, right? Let's say you're playing against an aggressive Demon Hunter, or a Pirate Warrior, or like a Rogue, right? That's really aggressive, has a really fast start. You can't play this card until turn 7, so you're probably going to be dead by then. And even if you play this card on turn 7, and maybe you get a couple of 3/3s, right, against an aggressive deck, they can just go over the top and kill you, especially if it's like Demon Hunter, for example. So the 3/3s, like obviously it can create a massive tempo swing, but just because it's 7 mana, I think it's very slow in those kind of aggressive matchups, right? Now let's think about mid-range decks. This is very much better against mid-range decks because mid-range decks don't really kill you that fast. You kind of can get to turn 7 a lot of the time with a decent amount of health. So this card can come down and obviously kill a bunch of minions and create your own board, and that's really, really cool, right? The fact that it can clear a board, and then create a board for yourself as well. I just don't see what kind of deck this goes into, right? I mean, most of the Demon Hunters on ladder right now are aggressive, so obviously you don't want to use this card in an aggressive Demon Hunter. Maybe they will produce more cards with a control element for Demon Hunter in this expansion, and maybe some sort of control Demon Hunter can exist. There is a control Demon Hunter kind of in the meta right now. I saw it in the previous Masters tour that happened last weekend. It was kind of like a combo Demon Hunter where you kind of just want to burst your opponent down with Twin Slices, with Metamorphosis, and try to generate more of that with Cobalt Spellkin, with Volpera Scoundrel and stuff like that. And that obviously had some AoE with Immolation Aura and Chaos Nova to kind of control the board and allow you to draw more cards and get to your win condition of comboing the opponent down. This card could fit into that deck, right? But isn't Chaos Nova just better? Maybe you want more copies of Chaos Nova, sure. But Chaos Nova I just think is strictly better than this because it comes down 2 turns earlier. I know you get the 3/3s, but I just think this is too slow. I think 3/3s that don't have an effect isn't going to do a lot most of the time, and I don't even see it seeing play in the deck, which, with that Control Demon Hunter that I was mentioning, I don't even think that's like a tier 2 deck. I think that's like a tier 2, tier 3, maybe a high tier 3 at best, maybe borderline tier 2. So even in a deck which is borderline tier 2, I don't think this sees play. So I just don't know. I'm not sure about this card. Obviously, if they produce a lot of Control Demon Hunter tools, and the rest of the Demon Hunter cards are very control-y, then I'm going to be wrong about this. But for now, I'm actually going to say 4 out of 10. I don't think this is going to be good, and I don't think it's going to be competitive. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, up next, we have a Rogue Legendary Infiltrator Lillian. A 4 mana 4/2 stealth that has a death rattle. Summon a 4/2 Forsaken Lillian that attacks a random enemy. So, okay, more stealth rogue synergy and more stealth rogue support. Okay, decent. 4 mana 4/2. That's pretty bad stats. Very easy to kill. Obviously, it has stealth. So you're kind of preloading 4 damage, a single target, basically. You're basically paying 4 this turn for possibly 4 damage removal next turn. Okay, that could be decent. But it's pretty weak. It's pretty weak. And, let's say it can't really take value trades. It's basically just a 4 mana deal 4. Which is not the greatest. Obviously, then it summons another 4/2 that instantly attacks, kind of like the Imprisoned Felmore effect. Okay, but then the 4/2 is random, right? So you can attack face. Maybe you want it to remove a minion, then actually attacks face, or vice versa, and it's kind of awkward. I guess you can kind of dictate where the 4/2 goes because you get to trade in, right? Let's say you play this on 4, you preload it. Next turn, you trade this into something, and then the 4/2 can then, have a 50-50 of hitting the other minion you want to kill or face. Or maybe you just trade into a minion and go face, right? And then leaves a 4/2 up. So it's not bad, but the initial tempo of this card is very weak, right? You're basically playing 4 mana, do nothing. And I just don't think that's good enough a lot of the time. Obviously, in some sort of stealth rogue, maybe it can be good. Obviously, you can play Greyheart Sage with this. You can play Ashtan Slayer. Maybe if they have more stealth cards coming up, it can be decent, but I'm just struggling to see where this card really fits, right? Even in Stealth Rogue, aren't there just better options, right? Aren't there just better options? Don't you just want to play Akama? Yeah, I think Akama is always better. Yeah, you have, technically, this is an 8/4 with 4 mana with the Death Rattle, but the Death Rattle is random. It's, it doesn't have stealth as well, so it is kind of awkward, and because of that, I don't think this is very good. I'm actually going to give this a 3 out of 10, guys. I think this will see experimentation. It's a legendary, so people will play with it if they pack in and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be good in the long run. Alright guys, then we are now moving to Reddit for the last 3 cards of this video. I will provide links to the subreddit for Hearthstone, which you guys should all join, as well as the previous website that I used to get the 5 cards as well in the description, so you can look at them yourself. But here is the next card. It is another dual class card, Priest and Warlock, and this is a really, really cool card, guys. I love the flavor of this card. 4 mana 3/3 Battlecry. If your hero's health changed this turn, destroy a minion. Really good flavor, using the dual class mechanics super well because you have Priest and Warlock, both classes with hero powers that change the health of your hero, right? Obviously with Warlock it takes 2 life, Priest has the ability to heal yourself for 2 mana, so basically this is just like 6 mana Siphon Soul. That's better because you get a 3/3, right? A lot of the time. You can hero power and play this on 6 mana, and you can kill a minion, right? You can destroy a minion, you can assassinate, it's the assassinate effect, and you also get a 3/3 body. That's not bad. Celedan the Breaker, currently in Warlock, sees play. Isn't this just strictly better? Because you also get a tap, you also get to draw a card. Yes, you're taking 2 damage, so in aggressive matchups, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe Celedan's better in some cases, but you get to draw a card, right? So in Warlock, this basically reads 6 mana, destroy minions, summon a 3/3, draw a card, and take 2 damage to a hero. I think that's pretty solid. In Priest, I don't think it's as good, but it's basically heal your hero for 2 and kill a minion and summon a 3/3 for 6 mana. Pretty good. But think about Renew, for example, in Priest, right? That can heal your hero for 1 mana, so this has come down a turn earlier. You might have some other ways to heal your own minions. Heal your own hero. Maybe damage your own hero. Maybe there's some sort of self-damage Zoo can come in. But then in a Zoo deck, it's an aggressive deck. Do you really want to be playing this? Maybe you want to get past a huge taunt, and this would be pretty good. It's also a pretty good tempo, too. You get a 3/3. Right, you're basically killing a minion, getting a 3/3. This is really strong. I really like this card. I think this is great. I think this can definitely see playing Galakrond Priest already. They have Renew. They run double Renew. They run Apotheosis, right? If you preload Apotheosis on the previous turn, or if you have a minion that can attack, you can Apotheosis and play this on turn 7. Pretty good. And even if you don't, on turn 6, it's just another time rip, right? That gives you a 3/3 instead of a minion in hand, and that's pretty good. So I think you can definitely already see playing Galakrond Priest. In Warlock, there's not really a control Warlock. I mean, Quest Warlock doesn't really want to play this. I think it already has Celedan. It already has Twisting Nether. I don't think it really wants to play this. Maybe if the meta becomes like a lot of big minions, a lot of like big boys, maybe Quest Warlock want to put some of this into their deck. They do want to tap a lot as well. But on turn 6, they mainly want to be playing, the big demon dude or Caster Defender. So this will definitely see more playing Priest, in my opinion. That's how I'm going to be looking at these dual class cards. I'm going to say which one they're going to see play more in. I think this is more of a Priest card currently, due to the fact that Galakrond Priest is so prevalent. But in the future, it could definitely be a more Warlock card, and it works better with the tap as well. So because of all those factors, I'm actually going to give this a 7 out of 10. I think it's a really good card. It's going to see playing Galakrond Priest, which I think is tier 2 deck. It might even become a tier 1 deck after the expansion, depending on the cards. So I'm going to give it a high 7 out of 10. Shout out to all these people posting these card images on Reddit as well. That's really cool. But the penultimate card of this video is the Bone Web Egg. It's a new egg, guys. It's a Warlock card. 2 mana, 0/2. Summon which has Death Rattle, summon 2/1 spiders. But if you discard this, trigger its Death Rattle. That's super interesting. Let's compare this with something called Scarab Egg, right? That is, I believe, a 2 mana, 0/2, summon 3/1/1 Scarabs, right? So in terms of stats, it's basically the same. They both have 6 stats in aggregate. This is a bit more front-loaded. This is a bit more aggressive. You only get 2 spiders. You don't go as wide, but it's more aggressive. They both have 2 attacks, so pretty decent, right? You play this on 2. Maybe you sacrifice this the next turn with something, or you can buff it up with something like Direwolf Alpha. I don't know. You can create some tokens. Decent, right? Obviously, this fits in a Zoo deck, right? It's not a control card. This is a Zoo card. Will this kind of swarmy sort of Zoo be in the meta? Grim Rally is gone, right? I remember when there used to be Grim Rally Zoos in the meta, but that's not there anymore. So it's a little bit less good right now. However, this does have the discard synergy. And currently in Standard, there aren't that many discard cards. If they release more in this expansion, maybe this can work out. But the discard cards they currently have in the terms of, in the form of, Expired Merchant and Nightshade Matron, they discard the highest cost card. And because this is 2 mana, it's not going to be this, right? You want to be discarding Hand of Gul'dan. That's what you want to be discarding. You want to get through your deck. So this is going to be unlikely to be discarded, right? Currently. If they produce more discard cards, yeah, obviously that's great. And if you do discard this, you basically get two 2/1s for free, which is insane. That's pretty strong. But even if you don't, I think this is a pretty good card. Just because it's an egg, right? You can play it, and the opponent's always got this like, oh, do I kill it or do I leave it up? If I leave it up, what can they do? Can they buff it? Whatever, right? So it's pretty good. It does fit into a zoo. It's just like, will this kind of zoo archetype exist with no Grim Rally? I don't know, honestly, but maybe it will. Stay tuned for the final card of this video, which actually synergizes with this card perfectly. Maybe it will. Maybe, with that card that I'm talking about, and also future cards for Warlock, and the other cards in this expansion, maybe this card will see play. Maybe some sort of Swarm Zoo, Token Zoo can actually be good. But there is a bit of uncertainty. So because of that, I'm actually going to give this maybe like a 5 out of 10. It's not great at the moment, but maybe it can better as more cards get revealed in this expansion. Okay, and the final card of this video is a very cool one. It's a legendary. It's a dual class legendary as well for Priest and Warlock once again. And it is a 4-mana 3/6 Disciplinarian Gandling. Disciplinarian Gandling? Okay, sure. After you play a minion, destroy it and summon a 4/4 failed student. So very cool card, right? This is a pretty aggressive card. It's obviously the stat line is pretty defensive. It's 6 health, but it's got a decent stat line. I mean, Houndmaster short stats, pretty good. 4-mana 3/6 is very difficult to kill. If you just play this on turn 4, it's very difficult for your opponent to kill, and this is a must kill if you play this on turn 4 for your opponent. So they're gonna have to invest a lot of resources to kill this. But if you don't play this on 4, you can also combat this in the late game with other token cards, namely Lackeys, for example. So maybe some sort of Lackey Zoo can come back. Obviously, Evil Genius still in the game. Sinister Deal, and obviously Takan. So some sort of Lackey Zoo would love this card because you play a 1/1, you get the effect, right? Every Lackey has a battle cry, and then the 1/1 becomes a 4/4, right? Who needs Takan to make the Lackeys into 4/4s when you have this dude? Really good. But not only does it work with Lackeys, right, which is why I think this is better than Takan, but it also works with any small minions in the late game. And especially it works with the Scarab Egg that we saw. What's it called again? Bone Web Egg, as we saw earlier on, right? Because you can play this and you can play Bone Web Egg, right? And that will give you a 4/4 and also a 2/2/1s as well as tokens. So this will definitely fit if some sort of token zoo exists, right? This is the perfect card for it. This is a massive payoff card. You can either play this on 4 and be pretty comfortable with that, or you can save it until turn 10 and make a full board of 4/4s. Which gives Zoo a lot of like power in the late game as well, which is something that Zoo doesn't really have these days. Right, that's the issue with Zoo. Zoo is very like all in, and if it loses the board, it pretty much loses the game. Well, this card can definitely get you back into the game, right? Especially with something like Rush Lackey, which can then rush these 4/4s into other minions, clearing the board and stuff like that. It's very good. And also for Priest, because we've got to mention it's obviously a dual class card. It can be used for Priest as well. It's not as good for Priest, definitely, right? I was saying that the other dual class Priest Warlock card is better for Priest. This is definitely better for Warlock, which is why I've talked about it with Warlock for so long. But let's think about Priest. I mean, Priest currently doesn't really have like a tempo Priest, right? The Priest currently is a control deck. So this card doesn't really fit into that, right? Maybe you want to kill like a Disciple of Galacrons. Maybe you want to kill like some small minions that you get from the invokes with this card, sure. But I don't think you want to run this card in the Galacron Priest currently. However, if a Tempo Priest does arise, I think this card is going to be pretty good. And they are trying to push that. We saw with the Frazzled Freshman from my first card review, the 1/4 Priest, like just 1/4 baseline Priest minion, that maybe they will be trying to push a Tempo Priest archetype. And this obviously does have a lot of health, so it's pretty good for Priest. Priest, we know that loves working with a lot of health, more than attack, because they can buff it, they can, trade in and heal it. So yeah, if some sort of Tempo Priest does exist, which I hope it does, I have real high hopes for Tempo Priest, and hopefully they do support it. But if it does, I think this card would be fantastic. And currently it's not really gonna see play in any Priest deck. However, this could create a very, very good token Warlock Zoo deck. So because of that, I'm actually gonna give this card a 7 out of 10. I was gonna give it an 8, but I just can't say that this is gonna create a tier 1 deck, or it's gonna be inside a tier 1 deck. But I think this card in a vacuum is very strong and can also create a possible tier 2 deck, and maybe even Tempo Priest can be a low tier 2 deck as well in the next expansion. We'll see, who knows. But yeah, very cool card. I love the design as well. And yeah, shout out to Brian Kibler as well, who actually did the reveal video for this card. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'm going to link that in the description as well, because I think it's a really, really good video. And yeah, I had a lot of fun watching it. So guys, go check that out. But anyway, that is going to be it from me for all of these card reviews today. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about all the cards in the comment section down below. And card review season has started, guys. So there's going to be a video from me every single day. Because they're going to reveal cards every single day. So I'm very excited for that. I love covering these. I love doing these reviews, or I love just talking, basically, about Hearthstone cards. I love reveal season. It's the best time in Hearthstone, the pre-expansion hype. So I hope you guys join in with me with that hype. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. Peace out.